value from success, growth in discovery. Golden Arrow Resources is a well-funded gold-copper exploration company with proven management and prospective properties in Chile, Argentina, and Paraguay. Golden Arrow trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange, symbol GRG, on Frankfurt, symbol G6A, and the OTCQB, symbol GARWF. For more information, visit us at goldenarrowresources.com or call Sean at 778-686-0135.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Sean Brodrick, senior editor at WeissRatings.com. Welcome back to the show, Sean.
Thanks for having me on.
Sean, what's the story in cannabis stocks? If you cross one side of the border to the other, totally different?
Well, it certainly is strange looking at the quarterly earnings between the U.S.-focused cannabis stocks and those in Canada. I just had an article on wealth-wave.com, which just went up Thursday. Speaking about, what's actually happening there, we are seeing tremendous growth in the U.S. companies. In fact, quarterly sales were up an average $74.5 million. Quarter-over-quarter growth was 27%, and year-over-year growth, this is also revenues, was 156%. But in Canada, looking at the biggest firms up there, quarterly sales were $36.6 million. Quarter-over-quarter revenues actually went down by 3%, and year-over-year revenues were up just 33%. So there's a few things on this. I actually think that the pandemic is helping U.S. cannabis companies because people are locked down at home. They have nothing else to do. They use a lot more marijuana because it's ruled as an essential service due to medical reasons. So, all the pot shops actually stayed open down here in the U.S., and so sales actually kept growing at a blistering pace. Up in Canada, you didn't have quite the shutdown we did, and also, frankly, I think that the way that they restricted both the amount of shops that can actually sell cannabis and the packaging, which is just horrific, and any clampdown on marketing, it's like they really don't want that business to actually succeed up there. Plus, of course, there's also the bad mistakes made by not all the management of the Canadian cannabis companies, but certainly some of them. They invested too much in grow houses. They overpaid for assets. They did a whole bunch of things wrong, including some really self-serving deals. So you look at it, you can see why the U.S. stocks are really ramping up much better than the ones up in Canada.
Well, watching what's happened here just in British Columbia, the government has been ultra slow in rolling it out. The stores, as you said, the packaging is ridiculous where there's 4 or 5 different containers that it's in. They can't have particular brands. It's very overpriced, talking to the people who use it. Stats Canada did a survey, and something like 46% of pot users, I don't know if that's the correct number, it could be 43, but it's a large number of them. They're still buying from their old dealer because he can deliver better product for less. It's the old free enterprise. And Ontario, Canada's biggest market, only has a handful of stores, now 3 years after the legal rollout. So, of course, the gangs, by the way, thank the government. And as somebody said to me once, only the government could lose money selling drugs.
Isn't it true, though? I mean, it's crazy. They absolutely do not want that business to succeed. They might say they want to, but I'm judging them by their actions. By their actions, they do not want the cannabis industry to succeed. I don't know if it's a Puritan thing or what the reason is, but they hate that business, and they'd rather see it go away, which means that it just goes illegal. I mean, as you said, the drug dealers must be loving the actions taken by the Canadian government, because that keeps them in business. And so I don't know what the solution is up there, but until things change in Canada, I expect U.S. stocks to keep outperforming, even though cannabis is federally illegal in the U.S., and that's probably not going to change after the election.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick right after this.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sean Brodrick. Sean, do you think the Democrats or Republicans will legalize pot federally after the election or going into the election because they're desperate for votes?
Well, we already know that President Trump will not, and he keeps appointing people who hate marijuana. So no, I won't get anything from him. What we heard from the Democrats this week, and we heard this from Harris herself, she's the VP candidate, is that under Biden we will see cannabis decriminalized on a federal level. Not legalized, decriminalized. That is still not good enough. It needs to be federally legal. Now, one group of people that aren't unhappy with this, by the way, are the U.S. multi-state operators. They've spent a tremendous amount of money building up their businesses to make money in the system that exists right now. If you suddenly change all the rules, there's no guarantee that they'll actually be on the path to making money, or in the case of like some companies, making quite a lot of money right now. If you change the rules, things could actually go quite adverse for them. So we have seen this around the U.S. where the cannabis companies themselves, the multi-state operators, are actually fighting change right now because the system we have works for them, and so they're quite happy with it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure the alcohol and tobacco companies are happy that there probably isn't going to be federal legalization.
Right. Well, they had a good old-fashioned freak out when this first started happening, and they are still freaking out because one thing that has been shown is that as marijuana sales go up in a locality, alcohol sales go down. They do. And so, you can expect they'd be very happy to see things remain illegal. But, at some point this has to move along. I just don't think that it'll be any time after the election. Now, maybe when the next election rolls around, or else maybe when the congressional elections roll around in 2020. We always seem to have elections all the time anyway. One of the big things that I harp on about is that America has entered a permanent campaign where it's constant politics all the time. That's really good for, things like campaign consultants and also TV stations, because they run ads all the time. But it's no way to really run a government effectively.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick right after this.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlan, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sean Brodrick. What's going on with gold right now?
Oh, it's pulling back. I mean, it had that big breakout over 2,000. Now we're seeing normal back and filling. And also, seasonally, this is when you'd expect things to slow down before we see the big run-up later in the year. I mean, that's on a normal seasonal basis. This year, who knows? I mean, gosh, if you can figure out if things are actually going to go by a normal seasonal cycle right now, you're better than I am, because things have just been tossed on their head. But what I can say is no surprise to anyone who's been in these markets a while to see gold pull back, because it did have that nice breakout over 2,000, and so it has to pull back, it has to digest those gains, and so that isn't a real surprise at all. And then you have the seasonal factors as well. But gold is still in a big bull market. In fact, gold could pull back to around $1,800, and it still wouldn't violate the uptrend of the new bull market. So I think gold could go lower here. I don't know if it is going to go lower. I know that we are taking gains right now in gold and silver trader, not the biggest gains, but there gains. And just, so we have plenty of cash, and I'm making my shopping list, and I have trades ready to fire off when the next bottom comes. We just aren't there yet, that's all.
Junior miners, are they still a bargain?
Many of them are. I mean, it all depends. Some have had too much press and they get talked up and they've already taken off. You don't want to buy something after it's already taken off. But there's still plenty of bargains out there, and the longer we see this consolidation drag on in gold, the more of the fast money investors will be discouraged, and the better bargains you are going to get on like small explorers certainly, but also developers, small miners, big miners. That's when you get all the bargains. So I'm actually looking forward to that.
Warren Buffett brought a busload of cash to Barrick Gold and dumped some of his banking shares. What does that tell us about his mindset, and do other investors follow what Warren Buffett does?
Well, he's looking at the free spending, money printing ways of all the governments around the world, and he thinks gold has a future. I don't blame him. He also sold airlines, and probably because this pandemic's going to drag on longer than many people actually believe. Probably have a vaccine by the first quarter of next year. Maybe if we're lucky, it'll be in the fourth quarter. The problem is the virus can change. It can mutate, and if that mutates, then we'll have to come up with a whole new vaccine and all that stuff. So it's an ongoing thing. And of course, many people say, well, we just have to learn to live with it, and they might be right. That might be what we end up doing. That certainly seems to be the path that the U.S. is taking. I mean, we've seen schools reopen and all that stuff, and some had to shut down. Some are just carrying on, no matter what. And so I think we are getting used to it as well. So it's kind of a mixed bag kind of thing. But I expect by the first quarter of next year, we could potentially have a good vaccine. The thing is, will the virus mutate? And if it does, then we're going to have to go through this whole rigmarole again. So there are too many unknowns to make any serious bets in this, which is why we saw Warren Buffett sell airlines, because, who knows what's going to happen. And we saw him buy gold, because probably governments around the world, including the U.S. government and the Canadian government, will have to keep spending a lot more money, which is inflationary if they have to keep printing money.
Uranium, what's it doing?
Well, it's actually kind of sideways to slightly down, but the uranium stocks are acting like they're expecting higher prices, or at least the good ones. So I think people should be looking at that. I mean, we're in one uranium stock in like super cycle investor right now. That's actually low for any of my uranium portfolios. In my personal portfolio, I have a bunch of uranium stocks. Some are doing very, very well. Actually, they're all doing pretty well. So, I think that, what the stocks are telling us is the price of the metal is going to go higher. And so, I think people should be looking at that market. We've seen a supply-demand squeeze. We've seen Kazakhstan extend shutdowns that, like, some of its production is being extended into 2021. So, you can see why the price of uranium might take off. Then again, I understand anybody whose outlook is, I've been told by people in this industry to expect a bull market for the last 5 years, and it hasn't happened yet. And so, if you want to take a show me attitude, I would not blame you one bit. So, I think things will be going higher sooner rather than later. The jury is still out as to whether it'll be right or not.
Oil, I'm surprised that the prices have remained as strong as they have this deep into the season, and considering that people, quote, aren't driving anymore. Are you surprised, and will it remain strong or relatively strong?
Oil is flat. I mean, it's not going anywhere, which is amazing. We had a hurricane blow into the Gulf of Mexico. Oil hardly bulged. So, hard to say. I thought oil stocks would pick up before this. I was wrong. So, maybe shouldn't take my advice on this at all, but we are seeing signs of economic improvement, not only in North America, but around the world. That's generally a precursor to more driving, more use of oil and gasoline and all those fossil fuels. So I think that a rebound is coming. And I think, if you get into a stock that pays a nice dividend, it has growth prospects, make money at like current prices, so it'll make more money when prices go higher, that's actually not a bad bet right now.
Off air, we chatted about lumber going from the 200s into the 800s per thousand board feet. Is this something that you're tracking, or do you have kind of an opinion about people trying to make money on lumber?
Well, you can try. I mean, it's an illiquid market. There are lumber futures, not very liquid. Good luck to you if you think you can make money on it. There are stocks that are leveraged to lumber, including home builders and wood suppliers and stuff like that. There is an ETF. I think the symbol is a WOOD, which people could also play if they wanted to. I just think that there's easier ways to make money. I've never found the lumber market that useful. Hasn't really worked out for me. So after you get burned a couple times, you tend to avoid those things. Now, what is driving lumber? We are seeing higher and higher home building activity because of low interest rates. And we're also seeing forest fires in some big woody reserve areas where lumber would normally come from. So, it's a kind of a supply-demand thing that's going on right now. And there's also that, what is it, some kind of weevil or something? It's like spreading all through the timber industry now because they don't have cold winters or as cold winters anymore. So I can see why the price of lumber would go higher. It's just not a market that I'll be in anytime soon.
Sean, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks. It's always great.
My guest has been Sean Brodrick, senior editor at WeissRatings.com. And what are some of the other newsletters that you're in charge of or contribute to?
Oh, heck. Let's see. Well, we have Wealth Supercycle. That's my monthly newsletter. You can find out about that. That's doing pretty well. We have Marijuana Millionaire Portfolio, which, as you might guess, is writing the hottest picks in the cannabis space. We have Gold and Silver Trader, which I've been I have a smaller portfolio now than I did a few weeks ago, but we have been taking gains, and I have a whole bunch of stocks I want to buy, and we'll certainly load up again when the time is right. That's enough for now. I actually have more, but that's a good place to start, those three.
Thanks again, Sean.
Thank you.
My guest has been Sean Brodrick. If you have any questions for Sean, and in connection, I'm sure, to all of his newsletters, you can send them to info@HowStreet.com. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.